Okay, so I'm David Himbara. I live in Toronto. Basically, I'm active in telling the world with colleagues about the situation in Rwanda, where we have a 30-year-old military dictatorship that has created hell for anyone who does not toe the line, who does not speak the language of the regime. So most people are civil rights, human rights activists, democracy activists. They are either in exile, in prison, or even perished. So what we do here, we establish this community organization called Democracy in Rwanda, and we discuss these matters among ourselves, how to create a better Rwanda. We inform the world about the situation in Rwanda. We lobby governments, especially donors, foreign aid to the regime, especially military aid. This work we have had progress, particularly to do with the top three main funders of the regime. The main funder of the regime has been the United States. Number two being the UK. Number three, the European Union. And among the European Union, Germany, France. So here in North America, we've worked hard to lobby governments, especially the United States. I have had a chance of appearing I have done a few hearings in the United States Congress, House of Representatives. We had some success in lobbying the UK, keep making noise to attract spotlight on the violence in Rwanda. And that's really I do day to day. That's kind of my work. I was born in Rwanda, but as we were becoming refugees in the 60s, then I became a refugee boy in Uganda, and then I became a refugee boy in Canada. It's in Canada where I did my studies at Queen's University, got my doctorate in economic development and governance, policy making, political governance. So when I finished university at Queen's in Canada, activist student fighting apartheid in South Africa. So I decided to go to South Africa when I finished university. And that's why I became a university teacher. But after becoming a university teacher, then I decided to leave teaching. Then I worked for international multilateral development agencies, United Nations Development Program, the World Bank, capacity building, developing governments, African Development Bank. So I went into policy and I worked across Africa. It's in that context that President Kagame became president. He said, look, you are out there helping all these countries, the rest of Africa. But your country, why don't you come and lead policy making here? Set up strategy and lead Rwanda. And he says, don't be greedy for money. Come and help your country. So I said, will you actually let me do that? He said, yes. So that's how I went to Rwanda in 2006. And we did great work. We reformed institutions, reformed laws, making Rwanda attractive to foreign and domestic investors so that more Rwandans would be employed, began a serious agenda of development, economic development. So I did that for 4 years. So I decided to flee in January 2010. So here's what happened. Initially, things went well, but by 2009, the situation began to change. The man became aggressive. On a number of occasions, people were assaulted in my presence. He began to demand that paint a rosier picture of Rwanda by manipulating statistics, growth statistics. So you did not know why this change happened. The problem was here, 2010 was election time. He was afraid of any opposition. and he started running the tight ship. So in January 2010, I decided to go back to South Africa. I did not tell anyone where I was. I just took off. Then when I was there in South Africa, I called him to say, look, I'm not returning. Situation that you asked me to come and work, I was coming to do my profession. But my profession is not about manipulating statistics. We use statistics as research and surveys, and then I don't appreciate violence of any kind. So he says, I have to come back, whether I like it or not. I said, no, I'm afraid I'm not coming back. And then he said, there will be serious consequences. At the time, I did not know what that meant, but I said, so be it. So then from there, the consequences indeed have begun in many, many ways. My relatives became imprisoned, relatives in Rwanda. In fact, last year, my brother-in-law, married to my sister, passed away in prison. He had been in prison since 2014. He was along with his brother. Both of these men were in the military. My brother-in-law was a general. My brother was a colonel. He remains in prison. Then in South Africa, soon I realized that I was in danger and I had to flee. A man who had been intelligence, another colonel, was assassinated. He had fled to South Africa. A man who had been the army chief of staff, he survived 3 assassinations, assassination attempts. He still is in South Africa. When I was in South Africa, I started looking for work, reviving my consulting. So I got consulting in Kenya. I was arrested by Kenyan government on the orders of Rwanda because of bilateral relations. I sent orders, knew that I was in Kenya. Then they got me arrested, said that I was a corrupt ex-public servant who stole money and then fled Rwanda. What saved me was that I had a Canadian passport. That was, even when I went to Rwanda, I had this idea that I better stay with some kind of link to Canada. So I always retained my Canadian passport. So the Kenyans said, look, this man is not Rwandan. There's no way that you can save me. I was not safe in Africa. I decided to. So I left all that behind and came back to Canada to start from zero. But in Canada, they followed me. First of all, they tried to trace wherever I was, my addresses. They posted to Rwandans here, harass me and intimidate me. The worst was the one particular case. This one man, there was this young man in Edmonton who was doing a PhD, who I had helped with his studies. I was supervising him. He had also been in my employee when I was in Rwanda, but he was now here in Canada. So they traced that history. And in all foreign embassies, there is what they call a military attaché. So the Rwandan military attaché got hold of this young man, Ganga was his name, and organized basically with him to harm me. What they do is poison people. Lawrence Muganga did not do that. He was one of those rare brave people. But Lawrence Muganga was a rare Rwandan. Instead of, he told me, man, you're in trouble. It's one thing to tell me about that, but are you tell this to the police? He said, sure, I will. He went and told the police in Edmonton. Then here in Toronto, I also went and told the police. What happened was disappointing, but the police didn't do much with it. One member of parliament, McCain, RCMP, but I was pretty much on my own. So I kept moving addresses. Last year, they managed to track me and even took a photograph and put it on internet. They caught me with the bags of food. The other bridge, there's a bridge here down the Valley Highway. And they wrote under that, David Himbara, dead man walking. By the way, really who helped me quite a lot here in Canada was the Globe and Mail. Globe and Mail has an African correspondent, Jeffrey York, based in Johannesburg. This man really kept my story and the Rwandan story alive. He's the one who broke the story about 2 years ago. There was a Rwandan fellow working for, had become a citizen and was working for RCMP, and he was caught spying for Rwanda. Jeffrey York is the one who broke that story. So basically, Canada does not seem to take threats. And when they did the investigation, there was a hearing on foreign interference. They would not hear my volunteer to present. They wouldn't even hear me. But Geoffrey York embarrassed them, and then they said, next time they would invite me. It seems Canada is focused mainly on bigger countries like China, but in particular India, because there has been a case of India interfering, including a case, I think, where there was somebody assassinated in Canada from India. But for other countries, they don't seem to care that much. Go to RCMP, there's nothing going on there. I've been pretty well on my own. There was one time I got a job at Centennial. They have this program, it's called Scholars at Risk. It's based in the US, has some Canadian universities and colleges. So I got research funding from Centennial under that program for 2 years. It's the one that allowed me to research and then write a book on Rwanda about these killings and stuff. After the contract ended, Centennial then decided to give me a job. I got a teaching post. But guess what? After 1 year, suddenly the course I was taking, basically, globalism, suddenly it started filling up with Rwandans from Rwanda. Of course, I knew what that meant. That put me at risk. I explained, of course, Centennial knew my situation. But they said, look, there's no way they can prevent students from wherever they come from to taking my course. I decided that it was more important to be earning some bread. I quit. So I'm not employable. I can't go where the job I got, I had to quit it. That is my life, making sure that I know where I live. So the community of Rwandan groups around the world, opposition groups, advocates, human rights advocates. So, for example, we actively seek to influence policymakers by talking to them directly, to Congress, in charge of Africa, the Senate, and speak to the State Department. We speak to universities and other human rights organizations. So occasionally, we land a hearing. A hearing is very important. When about 6 or 7 experts on an issue are given a platform in Congress, it's an open house where the whole world is invited. Then you present your case. The chairman of the committee opens up, so obliged to defend itself on why it does business with Rwanda. So, complete focus on Rwanda. This is something that takes about 3 hours. The platform. Rwandan embassy officials there are there too because it's open to the public. The Rwandan government panics whenever an opportunity like that because it's exposed. I remember the first hearing President panicked. He went to Parliament after that. and made a speech where he mentioned my name about 10 times, saying that this criminal is diverting friendly countries from helping us. So that work is very important. And I'm happy to tell you that as speaking now, Rwanda has become isolated, completely isolated. The US stopped for aid. It has also sanctioned the Rwandan military, meaning it's illegal for Americans or any American institutions to do business with this regime's atrocities in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The UK has followed suit. The latest development is the European Union, which has done the same thing. This don't happen in a vacuum. It's a everyday work. It's results. There has been a price to pay. I do not what I did. I could not have stayed in a place like that. People are violently attacked in my presence. That Rwanda is the Singapore of Africa, manipulating statistics. That wasn't me. I surprised myself becoming a human rights activist because I was an academic. Struggled to do my PhD in it. But hey, that's what happened. No regret. But life goes on. I have met great people, wonderful people who have helped me. Centennial University employing me. 2 years I was also affiliated with the University of Toronto. I no longer have that opportunity. But the important thing is that we make a difference for the people of Rwanda under these conditions, terrible conditions, where people, the hardship that are here, nothing compared to what. I thank you for the opportunity, this platform, this history of my country. The Canadian government somehow does not realize that it has a powerful voice around the world. Canada around the world for peacekeeping. Its military was very influential in the peacekeeping. Pierre Trudeau, the Prime Minister, is the one who actually opened up Canada to people of color. Previous to that, Canada was a society, a caring Canada. People from the West Indies came to Canada in large numbers. Before Trudeau, cheap labor. He changed all of that. Pierre Trudeau built a wonderful Canada with a view of global power. But along this Canada got lost. And through the young Trudeau, we need to win that back. We need to bring back Canada that cares. Canada is a player. Largest economy in the world. It has a role to play. And most importantly, it has to care for all the people, including those who are from small countries. If you care about India coming to Canada to do nasty things, you must care about tomorrow doing nasty things. And for your people who originate from there. So, in a nutshell, we need a global power that cares about the welfare of the people of the world.